it's really unique because the panelists come from a mix of different backgrounds. We have mentees, we have people who mentor, and then we have representatives from mentorship programs, which a lot of people don't know is even a thing. So I'm really, really pumped for this conversation. Before we get to the conversation, I do want each panelist to talk just very briefly about their name, their company, if that's applicable, and yeah, and then we'll go from there.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Melissa Muganzo. My pronouns are she, they, and sis. I'm the founder of Muganzo Entertainment and Mindy's Kitchen of California. I'm an actor, entertainer, model, voiceover artist, print model, all the things as many artists are. We could do a plethora of things, multi-hyphenate, but of all the things, I am both a mentee and a mentor. I would not be where I am without people seeing things in me, even when I fought it, even when I said, I'm not ready, they're like, yes, you are, apply. And, and then facilitating me getting it and then strengthening me to feel confident enough to be able to give that back. I believe in true connection. I believe in good fits in mentorship too. We could totally talk about that. And I'm happy to share how to go about getting a mentor, knowing what to want in a mentor, why mentorship is important, and how to foster strong relationships so you can too template being a good mentor when it's your turn. So I'm excited to connect with all of you. And I'm also here representing all the queer family members, all the Black family members, all the immigrant family members, the daughters and the children of immigrant families. I'm here to represent and show up for everybody. So what's up? One love.
Excellent introduction, Melissa. You are representing us all well. I'm Candace Newman. I am the CEO and founder of Live Out Live, which is an LA-based but national organization. Live Out Live is inspired by my journey as a Black woman in the live music industry. I wanted to create more access and opportunity for more Black, Latinx, queer, people of diverse background to be in the live music industry. Formerly, I worked at Live Nation as a concert tour producer and promoter and booker for 12 years. And before launching Live Out Live, which is a boutique booking and touring agency. So essentially, I'm doing the same thing but independent. In addition to that, I have a nonprofit called Live Out Live Foundation that taps deeper into into my mission to extend and provide access and opportunity to the live music industry. So I too have a mentor program through Live Out Live Foundation that we are launching in July, August, and September of this year, that is sponsored by Sony Music. And essentially what we do is we bridge the gap between the live music industry and people beyond the main stage, so executives in that space, and future leaders who want to pursue careers in the live music industry of diverse backgrounds. So essentially that's a lot about me. I wear many hats, as you can see, as the CEO and founder of a live music organization, and I'm very passionate about mentoring the next generation.
I can go ahead and follow up. My name is Mykaila Garcia. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am here serving as mentee to talk about how mentorship has ultimately changed my life and helped me navigate higher education. I recently just graduated from CSU Sacramento with my degree in business marketing, and I spent my years there working on campus, connecting with students, connecting with other centers. I have a specialty in logistics coordination and organization, community advocacy, unhoused community advocacy, and I am also the former chief of staff for Muganzo Entertainment, where I got to coordinate the film tour for the Big Histo, A Black Womb Revolution. And I'm so happy to be here and connect with everybody. So thank you.
Dope. What's going on, everybody? My name is Reggie Williams. I am a filmmaker, and I am one of the co-founders of Black Film Space. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting Black filmmakers through skill enhancing and community building programming. So we host events like screenwriting workshops, panels, mixers. We offer grants to filmmakers. And one of our programs that we're actually accepting applications for right now is our mentorship program. So this is very timely. And through that program, we pair 10 mentees with 10 mentors. And our mentors are working in television, like writing on television, directing on television, making feature-length documentaries, working in branded content, that sort of thing. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Right. Last but not least, my name is also Melissa. I'm a program manager at Group Effort Initiative. And what Group Effort Initiative does, we strive to create a pipeline for members of underrepresented communities to get real experiences towards the entertainment industry. So really helping them find those careers. And we're also a charitable organization that was founded by Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. And what I do specifically here, I help GI participants secure paid internships on the corporate and creative side, and also includes helping them get early career opportunities across 280 company partners that we work closely with. And then, of course, we recruit directly from education institutions. CSUEA is also a partner, and I do recognize some people's names on this call too, which is great to see you all here. In addition to helping people find jobs, I help curate educational programming, and that's an important piece to our program to expose people to new career pathways in this industry. In addition to that, I facilitate the mentorship program, which I'm happy to share with wisdom and some tips with you all today. So I'm super happy to be here, and thank you for having me here.
I told you this was a great panel. I'm so excited. So before we move to the conversation, I don't want to forget. So like Candace, Melissa, Mykaila, Reggie, if you could drop your links in the chat so people can find out more about your organization or initiative or you or what you do. I don't want to forget that. Okay, so I kick off every panel with this question because I think it's so important, and I know we're all thinking it. It's just our journey, like our story. Like what led you here? Very briefly, what was your story to now? Like, how did you, like Reggie, how did you end up founding Black Film Space? Candace, what inspired you to start your own business? Like, talk a little bit about what inspired you and what led you to now.
I'll go first. It kind of happened on accident. I was on Facebook. I Facebook friended my business partner, Londa Yusuf, didn't know her through a hole in the wall. And we met up to talk shop over lunch a week later. In that meeting, we were talking about our experiences as Black filmmakers and what we wanted to see in the industry. We were like, oh, we should bring our colleagues together for a happy hour. And then a month later, we hosted that happy hour. 40 to 50 people showed up. And at the end of it, people were like, when is the next event? So we did a screenwriting workshop a month later. Then people were like, when is the next event? So we did a director's panel a month later. And we worked really well together. We have a very clear vision, and so 6 months later, we called ourselves Black Film Space, and then it just kind of organically snowballed from there. And this was in New York City.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For me, my journey started obviously a long time ago when I was a student at Cal State University Fullerton. I am a CSU alumni, and so proud to be here amongst my peers. But I worked originally in the student union on campus for my full time in college, and that's where I was exposed to the event space. And from there, I just pursued it as a career, picked up skill sets along the way after graduating, where I worked with party planners and wedding planners and other local event promoters and people along my journey, which has just naturally, organically has happened for me, that eventually led me to Live Nation, where I was an executive assistant when I first initially started at the company, but kind of created a succession plan and worked my way through that pipeline. Being a Black queer woman in that space is not easy without going through a lot of hurdles, but I was able to navigate that space, being results driven and really focused, having mentors even in that space to kind of advocate for me, but mainly advocating for myself, navigating Live Nation for 12 years, and then seeing that there just was not enough of people that look like me and who create a space for the likes of me within that corporate infrastructure, and wanting to create that for not only myself, but for others. And so having a responsibility after 12 years in that space, I felt a sense of wanting to do more in the live music industry specifically. So that's how I launched Live Out Live, initially just as a platform where I was still at Live Nation. So I was just providing job offers and opportunities to people within my community and making sure that they got interviewed or vetted by a recruiter at the least, right? Since I was in-house. And then led to just me kind of creating tour terms or terminology around the live music space so that people can at least be equipped with knowledge about that space when they do go into these conversations and have interviews. And then eventually when the pandemic came, and so many transitions happened, I felt that that was my full opportunity to lean in with this endeavor and really create space in a meaningful way. So I went out on a limb, and now I am the entrepreneur of Live Out Live, where, like I said, we not only are booking tours and working with festivals and artists and having an opportunity to really still do the things that I've gained my IP from at Live Nation, where I graduated from, essentially, right, in corporate America, and then, lean into entrepreneurship in that space and really still living out my dreams in that live music industry, but also doing more for the community. So that's kind of how my journey went, right? So I'm able to create some more space for the likes of you guys who are interested in the live music industry, and or use my network to leverage access for you guys. So ultimately, that's background in my journey. It was all organic. It was driven by God, to be honest, because I didn't know that working at college at the student union for my entire time would lead me to working in the live event industry on a grand scale. And then obviously been able to create space for other people beyond myself. So it has just been a full scope journey, and one that's really just beginning, because Live Out Live is a new organization that I'm looking to expand and grow with all of you guys.
I can go ahead and go next. So the way that I got here, I'm a first generation low income background student. Growing up, there was not a lot of opportunities presented to me. There was not a lot of money to go around. Growing up in a toxic household, I was constantly in an environment where I felt like my confidence was stifled, and I was taught, this is the way life is. You speak when spoken to, you shouldn't have opinions on this. And it led to me having a lot of issues, just like finding my confidence and knowing what I wanted to do. And being a low income first generation student, like no one in my family had done this before. Me and my sister are the first ones who pursued higher education, and we had to be like extremely independent, fund ourselves, figure it out. And that ultimately led me to CSU Sacramento, where there was programs for students, there was opportunities for me, and there was also just a safe space on campus where I felt like I can start to find myself and journey into who I was meant to be and what I was going to do. And I met my mentor, who is with me on this panel, Melissa. I was able to meet her at orientation, and I just remember being so activated by everything that she was saying and really relating to her and her story, and being like, this is a safe person that I feel like I can connect with as I'm navigating higher education. And I was lucky enough to meet her at 17 and work under her for the Pride Center and the University Union, where I got to connect to other underrepresented students, and I got to share my story and hear others' stories, and just be so touched by the people that I got to meet and lead programs and sit on other beautiful panels like I am right now, and just find my voice, find my confidence, find people that I can relate to. And all that happened through mentorship. And now I'm sitting here as a college graduate, completely self-funded, just so thankful to be here on my journey to figure out, just finding my voice. And I don't always have to be where I grew up from, and I don't always have to relate to everybody that I grew up around to make better, to be better. And it was a long journey, and I'm so happy to be here talking about mentorship, because I really don't feel like I would have been able to finish college without mentorship and working on campus and connecting with my peers. And further down the line, I got to work for Melissa's company as her second in charge, being the chief of staff, and getting to write invoices, getting to speak at events, getting to hear people's stories, and just be, again, so touched and so amazed by all the people that I was meeting, and get to realize that I had a huge passion for the unhoused community, a huge passion for helping students, a huge passion for spiritual healing, and just so much self-discovery that I was able to do in college through working on campus, through having a mentor, and just meeting other students. So, thank you.
Melissa looks so proud over there.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud. That's my girl.
See it in your eyes. I can see it in your eyes. I can see it.
It's definitely a labor of love. It was definitely a joint effort through on-campus jobs, working full-time, traveling with the internship, nights of no sleep, going from one job, getting off at 1 a.m. to having a meeting at 6 the next morning. Like, just so much labors of love that I've had through this journey, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Thank you for sharing.
I can go next. So before GI and all the opportunities I had, I also am a CSUN alumni, and at that time was majoring in business management and economics, so not necessarily a creative producer, but I always wanted to be more work like in D&I space, human resources. I didn't have the connections either. Like, I also come from a single mother and also first gen, so like I kind of was trying to find my way into this industry that was super exclusive to some groups of folks, and definitely there isn't like opportunities. Luckily, like in 2018, for former Mayor Eric Garcetti started an initiative, Evolve Entertainment Fund, which some of you may have heard. But it was a workforce development program that really helped Angelinos get paid internships, get their foot in the door, connect them to educational and mentorship opportunities. So I went through that program. I got amazing internships through that. I worked at Live Nation in the D&I department there. Then I went on to NBC Universal, working in their early careers recruitment department. So I was an intern recruiting other interns, which was fun. And that's where I was getting people that looked like me, that were in my same group, that were CSUN coming in. Because it was like super hard to get those opportunities, and you go through a process, but you kind of have to just remind yourself, if you really want it that bad, you just got to continue to try. And I tell people it took me 3 years to get an NBC. And so through that program, I was at NBC for a bit, and then I graduated. I got an assistant opportunity there, which I was super excited. And then the pandemic hit, and unfortunately they had to let go of their contractors. So I was one of those individuals, but the same program that helped me get into an industry was looking for a coordinator at that time. So it kind of felt like all those opportunities did help me get prepared for this position. So I did have the privilege to work at the mayor's office for about 10 months. And during that time, like, we know Mayor Garcetti's term is going to come to an end. So we're kind of like figuring out what's going to happen to us and what's going to happen to our participants. And because when new administrations come in, sometimes they don't pick up the previous legacy project from the former mayor because they want to start their own, which is understandable. So my boss was doing pro bono work for some organizations, and luckily Group Effort Initiative wanted to grow, wanted to expand opportunities. And that's where they saw an opportunity, like, hey, we want to absorb Evolve Entertainment Fund and expand opportunities outside the city of Los Angeles. So when those two programs came in, I had the opportunity to come over here and be a program manager and continue to help participants continue to grow in this industry. So you kind of never know where the next opportunity comes about. Like, it just happens organically. And I think too, like Candace saying, like a lot of big part of it is God, like kind of taking you through each step, and you kind of have to go through a process. But I've been blessed to be in this position, and it's so meaningful because you get to help other people launch their careers, and it's not only getting them in the industry, increasing representation, but you're also impacting people's lives. Like my life changed completely, and I'm able to help my mom, my sister, and all these things. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and I'm so excited to be here on the panel with you all.
I'm gonna keep it really real. So I've always known what I was supposed to do. I've always known. It was familiar circumstances and cultural circumstances and social pressures that told me it wasn't acceptable, that told me it wasn't something that's supposed to be pursued. I was raised in a hyper-religious, hyper-cultural family that had never seen anybody be their version of successful being in the arts. So, and mind you, I was fostered all throughout middle school and high school. I was in a dance company, had a singing group, I was a cheerleader. You probably could tell I was out here with these Cinnabons cheering. And then in senior year of high school, I was like, I'm trying to go to Juilliard. And my family was like, that's hella cute, but you're not going. You're going to study something smart. A lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, a nurse, an engineer. I'm like, y'all know I don't like homework. Y'all know that. And I can't count. I can't do science, but I can point this toe and I can dance. But that wasn't fostered, right? And so I went through this journey of self-esteem disruption. The places where I felt the most confident, the stage, the microphone, being in community, my confidence was grounded in that. But I had to study something else for the likes of my family. Now, truth be told, I could have just left because I was 18 and they would have to just get with the party later. But sometimes those external factors feel like our only way. They're our biggest influences. So you feel like, oh, you told me I can't? Well, damn, I can't. When in reality, you can, but you will have to disappoint some people. And sometimes those people are the influencers in your life, which feels like this guilt struggle, right? And so I went to this very predominantly white institution, UC Davis, where out of 36,000 students, 800 were Black identified, and that's undergrad and graduate. And I studied something smart, international relations. Guess what? I got kicked out of school because your girl wasn't going to class. I told you I didn't like homework. I told you. So imagine me studying a subject matter that I did not like. Of course, I'm not going to feel smart. Of course, I'm not going to feel seen. Of course, I'm not going to do well. This is not what I wanted to do. So what I decided to do when I got kicked out is start another singing group. I started doing hair in the residence halls, started another dance group. started acting, right? The things that I was already good at, but I was fighting, right? You're given this gift very early, and whether or not it's cultivated by your family or surroundings is another conversation. And when I got back into college, I decided to study community development, but still start freelance work. So I was a freelance artist, a freelance singer, a freelance dancer. And for those that are on the call, freelance means you don't have a formal business, but you get paid individually for individual opportunities, individual gigs. And so that's why I learned how to put a price on my talent. Oh, you're going to pay me for my gift? Well, how much should I charge? How long should I charge? What did it take to prep to do that? If I'm going to choreograph for an hour and perform for 6 minutes, how much does that cost, right? And learning how to cultivate that while still developing language and vernacular to advocate for a community, to show up for queer folks, to show up for immigrant folks, to talk about worldly issues that are deeply impacting people around me, so I can know how to be a strong ally, but also an artist that is in tune with what's going on, so I can make good art that speaks to what I'm curious about and what I'm passionate about. I never went to pursue an MFA, but I always knew I wanted to do it. And so it got me the opportunity to be involved in community artistry, community plays, community theater, commercial acting, voiceover acting, while still pursuing graduate education, working on behalf of higher education, which gave me a voice to speak on behalf of first generation college students that had the same experience, no family support, or, your grandma wants you to be the first in your family to put you're carrying the entire family's back in your studies, which could be a lot of pressure for students that are like, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I didn't know I got to graduate to make grandma happy, right? That can feel like a lot of pressure. Navigating financial aid for the first time if you need it, navigating identity exploration if you need it. If you don't have the family backing to support you, to say, I'm here to support you, the degree is in your name. How do we amplify you being here and utilize everything that this college has to offer, because it's your homework and your fees that's going to catapult you to the next level. But all of that tug of war made me prepared to be able to bestow upon the students that I was greeted with an opportunity to serve as their mentor, to have these robust, holistic conversations and ask the deep-rooted questions instead of the standard, what do you want to major in? What do you want to do when you graduate? Nobody got time for all that. Who are you? Are you loved? Are you wrapped in support? Do you like what you're studying? Are you enjoying your homework? Do you have a job? Do you like your roommates? Are you happy? These are good questions to ask as you're navigating that, right? Because you're a human. And while, yes, you are a student, you're not less than anybody, right? Because in a couple of years, we're colleagues. So my job is to prepare you to be a strong colleague so we can dominate together, okay? I'm trying to be on a yacht with you, right? And I need to be able to afford it. So how do we prepare you mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially to be the strong spine backbone person to be able to move forward? And that led me to say, you know what? Working in higher ed was never the goal. Creating art was always the goal. And so when the zombie apocalypse, AKA COVID, happened, I bounced. And I had already filed for my license for all this freelance work I was doing, but it was time to go. It was time to go and pop off. And that's when I made my first film. And the person that came their freshman year of college, Mykaila Garcia, who literally I was presenting on campus, and they were like, I don't know who you are, but I want to work for you. I don't know where you work, but I want to work for you. And first day of school, she literally came to me and was like, remember when I saw you at orientation? Run me that job. And we did, and we've been locked in. So even when I left that industry, I called her and I pulled her into my new industry. And so I just want to empower everybody that's here that is maybe connected with the person, or somebody's inspiring to them, or somebody brings out the best in them, to don't be afraid, even if they're not in the industry you're interested in yet, to reach out to them, because you don't know if they're going to see something in you that's like, you know what, after 5, I'm going to call you, because there's some other stuff that I'm involved in that may bring out the best in you. And same thing for myself. I'm a product of mentors that saw something in me that said, I'm going to call you, because there's something about you that I think would be really, really a good fit for these other opportunities. And so now I do a bunch of different things as a filmmaker, as an artist, as a foodie business owner, a bunch of different things. And I'm so, so proud to be in community and to answer some real life questions for folks. I did end up graduating, by the way. I did get back into school and graduate and pursue more, but that's all of that made me a strong mentor because of my own understanding of the journey of identity and the journey of self-esteem and the journey of monetizing your gift so that you can make sense of this life and feel like life was worth living for.
I love that. And, I think, I know a running theme of what each of you kind of touched on is the proactivity, the proactive element of it all too. Like there's and we'll get into it later if we have time, but being proactive in a proactive industry, this is not, I say it all the time, this is not a reactive industry. So there is a high level of proactivity that has to go into building your own business, fostering mentorship, and being a mentor. So perfect segue to my next question. A couple of you can chime in, because I do want to make sure we get through the rest of the questions. How do you foster mentorship? I mean, everybody wants to know. It's like a burning question. Like, I want to be a mentee. I want to find a mentor, but how do I do that? Like, what are some tangible ways that everyone on this call who's seeking a mentor, what can they do? Where do they start? Where do they look? Like, how does that happen?
I can definitely go, because this is my groove. This is my jam. So anybody that's a college student on this call, if there is a department with a major, that means that everybody that teaches in that department is in the industry of that, works in the industry, has a background in the industry. So in order to be a professor in that department, that means you have to have a resume and a history of facilitating growth in that industry. Sometimes people say, oh, that's just a professor. No, prior to being a professor, they were an X. That's how they're able to qualify to even apply for that role. So that is one way to even just have conversations. And I highly recommend having a one-on-one first with someone you find interested, and see if your heart space matches their heart space, because vibes are everything. Just because somebody has credentials does not mean they'll be a good mentor. Just because somebody has vibe doesn't mean they'll be a mentor that you need. Sometimes your mentor, people are looking for older siblingship in a mentor, and they need to be honest about that. Sometimes people are looking for a future job opportunity, and they need to be honest about that. Sometimes people are looking for how to course navigate an environment they're in, and they can be honest about that. Sometimes people are looking for really someone that can handle therapeutic conversations and navigate identity and emotions, and they can be honest about that. And every mentor is not going to be able to support you with every one of those things, because some people are just good at one specific thing. And so taking some time within yourself, I advocate for therapy a bunch, but taking some time for yourself and ask yourself, okay, of all the things that I desire, what do I need? And in my conversation with this person, do I feel, and trusting your gut, that they can provide that for me? If not, having a colleague, that's fine. Doesn't mean they have to be your mentor, but really asking yourself, like, what is it that I'm needing guidance with? And how frequently and how invested do I want the mentor to be? For example, I'm a huge one-on-one person. I love weekly one-on-ones, and I will guide you through a journey in a certain time frame. That's how you foster connection. But some people are like, every quarter, every semester, once a year, let's go get coffee. Never call me, only email me. Everybody's so different. So knowing how invested you want this person to be, and is it subject specific? Is it time specific? Is it industry specific? Or is it heart space specific? And being open about that.
I'll piggyback off of that, because I want to just add to some of Melissa's really solid points about having what I call a board of director of mentors in my life, right? Who help me navigate and, advocate for me in certain spaces. I am a mother. I'm a business owner. There are many persons and parts of me that I could use support in, and I have specific people who I regard and or respect in those areas, who I go to for mentorship. I am also a mentor, very much a mentor obviously in the entertainment space and in the live music industry. And I see mentorship as a mutually beneficial thing. I want to advocate for youth and for young people who are proactive, as Shari mentioned, who take initiative, who lean in with me and say, I want to do what you're doing. How can I support that endeavor? How can I learn from you one-on-one? Kind of how Mykaila and Melissa established their rapport. So that's what I mean by mutually beneficial. Sometimes if we don't have an ongoing rapport, maybe calling me or emailing me and keeping me updated or abreast on the things that you have going, and seeing how I can support that, or seeing how you can contribute to whatever I have going. Again, you can't count on only the mentor to help guide the relationship. You have to take some form of initiative too as a mentee. So that's another thing that I'll add to a point that you made. And then mentorship looks different for everybody, right? So obviously it's going to guide your needs. It's going to look different in different areas and scopes in your life. Like I said, that's why I have a board of directors, and it changes as I grow as a person. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to just piggyback off some really great points that Melissa made about the different areas that you're going to need mentorship in.
I totally agree. And I just want to say this too. Sometimes your mentor then becomes your colleague, and it's time to look for new mentors. So that's the other thing too. You will, as you grow, you'll need new insight, new strengthening as you get older. So don't be afraid to say goodbye to someone or normalize a friendship and terminate that mentorship and move into friendship and ask for another mentor in an area where you're trying to grow, because that's important too.
This is so good. And I love what you both said, because I think a lot of time, at least in my experience, I do want to hone in on mentees, because obviously a lot of people on the call are in college or, not in college or just graduated or what have you. I personally had mentees who just ghosted me. And I'm their mentor, who goes to me, don't show up, not proactive. I mean, it's a real thing. It happens so often. And you have a responsibility also as a mentee. It's not all on the mentor to do all the work. And so I do want to talk and focus a bit on that. If a couple of people can just talk about what makes an effective mentee, like what are the do's and don'ts of being a mentee? Because I honestly think a lot of people don't get it. And they're like, yeah, I want a mentor. And then they don't put in the work. They don't show up. They're not responsive. They don't keep up to date. I've had a few instances like that, and it blows my mind. I'm like, wow.
For
So
me, this is less about the relationship or mentor and mentee and more about person and character and integrity, right? So if you in your own person care about how you show up in this world in an integral way, then you're going to aspire to be a good person and a good mentee and or mentor, right? So that means following through, communicating with each other. People understand that things change. People understand that emergencies happen. Communicate that, keeping people abreast so that and they know that you respect them and you value them. That is a simple character thing that almost can't be taught, but I just want to reiterate, those things come with just mentorship, understanding and knowledge, right? Like what you want out of it. Mykaila know what she wanted out of Melissa. She just didn't know exactly what she needed until Melissa exposed her and introduced her to those things. So what is it that you want out of it? And make sure that you're being results driven for yourself, not only for yourself, but out of respect for your mentor, because essentially they're volunteering their time. They're lending their time. They can be lending their time and their talents and their knowledge and their resources and their network to anyone, but they're choosing you. So you really want to respect that and value that. And you never know in this industry who knows who. And people who have had the same mentee as me plenty of times, and they come to me like, I noticed that this person worked with you on these projects in the past. How were they? Because they're looking for me for guidance and mentorship. So you just never know. So it's more about you as your person, you and showing up in character and integrity, and obviously helping guide that relationship. And so I can't stress just you individually enough, right? Like in how you show up as a person, less about the mentorship and mentee relationship and more about how you showing up in this world. But yes.
I would love to piggyback off of that, especially because I know I have college students here, and I know it can be really scary going into college. You're in this whole new world. Like for the most part, you're not really in your hometown anymore. Your parents aren't I hope your parents aren't setting everything up for you anymore. Like, it is really scary to navigate that. But you, as a person, if you are looking for a mentor, you need to check your intentions. Am I looking just for a job opportunity? Am I looking to learn some skills? Or am I looking for someone who is going to activate me? Am I looking for someone who's going to teach me ways of life? Am I going to look at someone and see what they're doing and say, you're hella dope. I would love to learn from you because I see what you have going on and I respect it and it motivates me. It activates me to want to reach into my confidence, to reach into my skill sets, because it's more than just, oh, you're doing a job and I want your job, or I want a job from you. I think that's the biggest thing about being an active mentee. It's seeing somebody and picking a mentor. When you go to pick a mentor, you want to pick someone who activates you, who makes you have a fire inside of you that wasn't really there before, because you're not going to look to somebody who doesn't motivate you and inspire you and be like, I really want to learn from you, because then you're going to probably ghost them. You're not going to have that much respect for them. It's all about seeing somebody and understanding, I feel like I can learn a lot from you. I really like what you're doing. Would you share your energy, your time, and your knowledge? And you have to lean into that and show up. Because one thing about me, I always showed up. Like, we can go through the story. Like, I met Melissa at orientation. The first day of school was months later. The first thing I did was march in her office. And I was like, remember me from orientation? I said you activated me. I said I was going to be here. And here I am. And here we are almost 5 years later, because before I worked for her, before I was getting paid to spend time with her, I was showing up to every Pride Center staff meeting as a volunteer, just because I wanted to learn. I wanted to be on the scene. I wanted to meet students. I wanted to be involved in programming, and I wanted to make the most out of my higher education and activate myself as much as I possibly could, not only through Melissa, but through other colleagues that I was working with through Melissa's network. And I think that's just a really important part. Just show up, be respectful, because not only are you reaching out to someone to give you their time, but they're giving you their energy, their support, and their knowledge. And those are some of the most sacred and valuable things that someone can possibly share with you, is they're sharing their knowledge in their profession, their specialty, or they're helping boost your confidence. And you need to take that as a mentee really serious and show them that respect and show up and communicate them with your needs, communicate them with your boundaries, because I think that's what builds a really, really strong mentor-mentee connection. Know what you need, know when it's time to pull back, know when it's time to push, know when it's time to pull. So be active, be involved, communicate with your mentor. Don't only go looking for an easy job opportunity or looking for, if you're going specifically for a job, you could start to learn that job and a week later decide, ooh, I don't like this. This isn't for me. And then you're dipping. And then you just ghosted somebody who is giving you their time, their energy, and their knowledge when, things change. So I think it's really important to look into your motivations and why you're choosing a mentor when you're choosing them. And that sets the standard for most of the relationship, is how you lead with that integrity and that honesty.
And Reggie, you had something to add?
Yeah, what I'm hearing from everyone and what I like to add is around commitment and really asking yourself, what does it mean to be committed in general? And what does it mean to be committed in the relationship that you have with your mentor? And I think some ways commitment can play out is, like everyone else said, following up, listening to your mentor, even if you don't like what they're saying. Just listen, soak it in, take it in. You may or may not go in the direction that they're guiding you, but to really listen and take that in. And if they offer you advice, tips, opportunities, to follow through on that. Because if they're giving you, you don't want to be in a position where they're offering, and you're rejecting everything, or just not following through on it. Or they don't know that you're following through on it. So just being like, oh, you gave me X, Y, and Z advice, and I actually did it. And if they're giving you lots of advice that isn't sitting well with you, then maybe you need to have a conversation about your relationship and if it's a good fit. And as far as the ghosting thing, please do not ghost. Like if you feel like just in life in general.
Yeah.
Don't ghost. It's always good practice to just communicate your feelings in a kind, respectful way. So if it's not sitting well with you, practice awareness. Why is this not sitting well with me? And then communicate that in a professional, respectful way. And then, if you got to part ways, you got to part ways.
And you're saying it's a practice, because it's not something that you're going to get right off bat or being able to understand. But it's good that you're putting it out there that that's something to practice and continue to work on, because people sever ties every day, and that's okay. But you want to practice communicating, practice being a person.
Absolutely. This is so good. And Candace, you said something earlier about mentorship looking different from everybody. And, this panel is about demystifying mentorship. And when we think about mentorship, I see a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have time. Like, I don't have time, or nobody's going to want to mentor or whatever. There's just so many different negative connotations associated with mentorship, but it can look so many different ways. It could be a coffee, a resume critique, a mock interview. I just want to talk about what are the different tangible, realistic ways that mentorship could look like, so people know that it doesn't look one way.
It could be, there's different type of ways of mentorship, right? Like for us, we have pretty much a formal mentorship program where it's structured, where people need to set up expectations for their first meeting. There needs to be a way, how are you going to effectively communicate with one another? I think we're all talking about that. Is it through Zoom? Is it in person that we're meeting? So, there's different ways of mentorship. And I think that's where in your first meeting, you do have to talk with your mentor and see what works best. Like for us, we are pretty much a nationwide mentorship program. So we do have people that mentors might be in the East Coast, and we have some people on the West Coast. So they're in a different time zone. So they do have like more of a virtual mentoring, and they go on Zoom like this. But they set those expectations and beforehand, how that's going to look like. That's where the mentee also has to take initiative, have a list of topics to discuss. What are the key takeaways from each meeting? That's where, like Reggie was talking about, like not just receiving the feedback, just like follow through with that. Like, what are you doing with that feedback? And then there's also like as you go up in the career ladder, there's executive mentoring too, or coaching. Coaching is a little bit different what mentoring is, but and then you have informal mentorship, which is mostly like a peers providing advice to you or somebody in the family, and it's pretty much informal, like you're just having to talk and like, this is what I'm going through. Is there any advice? So there's different mentorship, and I feel like it all depends on you and what your mentor can give as well. But for the most part, what I have seen is mostly that formal structural mentorship program, because like I'm part of here at GEI, like we have that mentorship program in place, and some companies may have it too. But it just depends. I think when I was at CSUN, like it was pretty much informal, where I would go to, like Melissa was saying, like go to your professors for advice. I went to their office hours to ask them questions, or to career counselors. So when you're in college, I think it's a little bit different in terms of maybe it's mostly informal, but there's formal opportunities out there. I think you just have to like dig in and join like GEI, for example, and apply to our mentorship program.
I wanted to echo what Melissa said around the peer-to-peer. This is something that I didn't really start doing till I was in my late 20s, which is okay, but it's not something I thought about till I was in my late 20s, which is support groups. So if you can find a support group for wherever you're trying to go, whether it's career, personal, there are support groups out there in the world. It's very easy to find on the internet, or you can ask people in your network, friends, family, etc. But one area where I get mentorship is I'm in a men's group where we uplift each other and we talk about all areas of life. Mm-hmm. And it's been one of the best decisions I've made. And particularly, I'm in my late 30s, and most of the men in that group are in their 40s and 50s. So they have, we give each other wisdom, but they have more experience than me. Most of them are married where I'm not, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of areas where I can learn and grow, and I can call them at any time, 3 a.m, and say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you help me? Like if I needed to do that, like they would be there to do that. Or if I needed help with anything, they're there. And so it's just support groups in general.
No, and that's a perfect segue. So I'm going to open the floor right now. If you have questions, private message me your question. If you don't private message me, I won't get to it. So private message me your question. You can start doing that right now as I ask these last 2 questions. Because I want to make sure I get you out of here by 1. But that's a perfect segue to my next question, because I think also too, like I didn't know before I entered the industry, I always looked at mentorship as being like a singular thing, like it has to be an individual person. And I didn't know there were programs and, like to your point, support groups that could offer mentorship. And the individual is still very much effective, but it's not the only way to foster mentorship. And obviously we have 4 of you that run or are part of great programs. So this is kind of a 2-parter. I want you to talk a little bit about how those programs are structured. Like, how do you enter or apply for those programs? How do you get involved with those types of programs? And how do they pair you with a mentor? Like how that works. And then secondly, if you know of other mentorship programs outside of what you're doing that have been effective or you have found to be resourceful, if you could put that in the chat as well, because everyone here is going to save the chat with the resources, right? So if you know other programs or mentorship resources that people on this call can plug into, if you could drop that in the chat, that would be great.
I want to give a special shout out to all the cultural centers on these college campuses. I'm a product of the Cultural Center, the LGBT Center, the Black Student Center, the Women's Center, the API Student Center. All of those centers on campuses not only employ, for anyone looking for jobs on college campuses, they employ, but they also are hubs for fraternities, sororities, support groups. The coordinators are the resource mamas for the campus because their job is to serve the campus at the undergraduate, graduate, faculty, staff, and administrative level. As someone that was a representative on tons of professional affinity groups, I was the vice president of our Black Faculty and Staff Association. I was one of the founding members of our faculty and staff LGBT group. I was a safe zone trainer talking about trans liberation on campus. I also was I created a couple of senior scholarships for college seniors to transition into graduate school, the professional world, to interview. But I was, even though I had one title on job, the Pride Center Director, I was the hub of resources for all these other things in the community and on campus. And so I just want to empower folks. If you want to lead with your identity first, right? Whatever your primary identity is, lead with that. There is a cultural center on campus made for you that is the hub of resources for anything you're looking for. And even if the center doesn't have it, they know something on campus that is available for you. It happens all the time. So the people in there are paid to be there because they're staff members. The students in there are usually paid to be there or some type of volunteer. And their singular job is to provide you resources and connect you even deeper to the campus. So I just want to empower those people. And even as an alum of these institutions, if you are older, go back to that cultural center because they also have postgraduate resources as well. So I just wanted to empower folks to do that if they need a starting place.
So I'm happy to share more about my specific mentorship program. It is very much specific and geared towards the live music industry. So if there is an interest or just a passion for the live concert business and you want to lean in, you can definitely apply to our organization. And how that's structured is we pair mentees with individuals who work behind the scenes on festivals and production, in live events and booking and tour marketing and box office and ticketing, and in those specific live music areas in order to empower them to learn more about the industry, the live music industry specifically, and to maybe even garner support to leverage an opportunity, right? If they are graduated from college, there may be internships automatically available in those companies. And a lot of these individuals work at Live Nation, AEG, Golden Voice, C3, all of the big booking agencies, CAA, WME. So if you're interested specifically in live music concert production, our organization has a mentorship program. So there are specific mentorship programs that focus on specific task at hand. And then there are, general mentorship programs, obviously, that just cultivate people and teach them about a wide range of industries and opportunities. And so I just wanted to just be clear that the one that we put together is specific to the live music industry. We're very intentional about that space because that is a space, obviously, that I grew up in, right? And I want to truly impact because I've seen the landscape in that space. I'm very intentional about that. So, but I employ you to find opportunities across the industry so that you can decide on what most fits your personality, what you're most interested in, and skill sets are transferable. So it's okay to lean in one area and then decide, that's not really for me, and pivot, kind of like what Reggie was stating about him realizing he can get mentorship at a certain age. There's never too late. You're never too late in the game to pick up a mentor, pick up a new skill, and or pivot into a new career.
Yeah, thank you. I know we have 9 more minutes. So I do want to get to the questions, but I just wanted to say Google is the homie. So, utilize Google. If you don't know where to start, I have to say that, right? So you can go on a mentorship program, zip code, mentorship programs, LA, mentorship that would teach you X, Y, and Z. I am the search queen. Okay, get specific. So Google is the homie. Remember that. Okay, so we're going to go through these questions. We only have 8 minutes, so if we could keep the answers powerful but concise, that'd be great. Okay. First question is actually directed towards Melissa Ramirez. How can I apply for the GI mentorship program?
Good question. So we do reserve the mentorship program for our participants. So first apply to Group Effort Initiative. Check out our website. You'll find an admin email that you can send an email to us, kind of just say hey, I was at this panel and and they wanted to apply to the GI program, we'll ask you some questions because there are some requirements that we share with you. And then from there, the mentorship program will be launching later this year, like in the fall. So we'll probably open up applications later this spring. And there will be some questions there to help us kind of line you with a mentor that has the same career interests as you. But we also ask for a personal statement because we're really intentional who we want in our mentorship program. We want people to do their homework and be prepared and fully available for that opportunity. So there are some requirements there, but it's like a 6 months duration program where you meet with your mentor on a monthly basis, and you can go above that unless you guys have that sort of different agreement. So, apply to our mentorship, apply to our program first, and we'll follow up with additional information about our mentorship program and the application process.
Thank you, Melissa. Next question. How do you ask for mentorship from someone you've only met once? I've heard that cold emails do not work much.
I can touch on this a little bit. Just coming from my experience, like I did not know my mentor at all. Like I literally walked up to her after a speaking engagement, was like, I like what you do. How do I spend more time around you? So kind of just ease into it. You don't initially want to be like, hey, I just met you. Can you just offer me all your time and all your knowledge? Like you have to cultivate the relationship. You have to make the connection organically. I really see what you do. I really respect it. I think you have knowledge that I can learn from. Where can I find you? Do you offer one-on-ones? Do you do any support groups for students? Do you lead any programs on campus? Just kind of get to know what they do and how you can be there and how you can learn before you're immediately like, okay, like, can I take all of your time and gather all of your knowledge? So I definitely recommend fostering the relationship more organically, and that's what worked out for me.
Piggyback off that, like this is not a mentorship relationship, but the relationship I have with my business partner, like we didn't just start a nonprofit. Like we did one event, it went well. We did the next event, it went well. We did the next event, it's like, oh, we work well together. Oh, we have the same vision. So just taking baby steps.
Yeah, it's important to take baby steps too, because somebody can be really inspirational or really about it upon first meeting. But if you learn more about them and you're like, wait, maybe our values don't align, or maybe what you do doesn't match with me morally, you don't want to immediately be like, hey, you're my mentor, I'm your mentee, and then have to sever that relationship really early on. I think it's a lot more valuable to just take your time and take those baby steps to get to know and cultivate that relationship.
Thank you. Next question. I have a mentor, but currently my mentor is unresponsive. They asked for my resume for review and didn't do it. Said he would introduce me to people and also hasn't done it. How do we navigate this? Should one just drop the mentorship or try to build it?
Quit it early. The first thing I've learned in business is to pivot early and pivot fast. There's no reason to deal with abusive nature or unresponsive nature for someone that you're literally seeking out additional time and energy from. Quit them, find somebody else, because if they're doing that upon meeting them, that means the relationship is going to be tacky. And what we don't need more of is tacky relationships. So get out of there and find a new one. Just so your heart space can be clear, because you don't want to be rejected by somebody you're seeking to be connection with. So
I think too, like if they have been unresponsive multiple times, then yeah, of course, leave. If it's been only like you sent one email and they haven't responded back, follow up. Sometimes, we have a lot of things going on at work, or maybe so there's an emergency going on in their personal life. Just follow up. If they provided their phone number and they're okay with you shooting a text or give them a call, do that as well. Follow up. This is a relationship business, and the more you do follow-ups and those connections, you never know, that person will come back to you in the next couple of days or respond to you really quickly in that text or call.
Yeah, because unfortunately it happens on both sides.
Right.
Earlier we were talking about the mentees, but there's some ineffective, I don't want to say bad, but ineffective mentors out there too, who don't do what they're supposed to do. So I'm very clear that there's a responsibility for both the mentor and the mentee in these types of relationships. So I have to agree with Melissa. It's just, there's so many people out there that have such great expertise to offer, and you're just really wasting your time with someone who's not responsive when someone else could be more hands-on. So thank you for sharing that. Let me see. Okay, I have 2 more questions. So this is interesting. Hello, I want to ask about being someone over 30 and trying to find a mentor. How do you go about doing that?
Yes, the same way. Finding a mentor is kind of like dating, if I'm being honest with you. You got to just try it. You got to literally ask and open yourself up to be like, are you a good first date? If on the first date the vibes aren't there, don't follow up with a second. Don't do it. If the vibes are there and you want to continue to get to know the person before you ask them to be a mentor, because I really want to say you need to be around somebody, similar to what Mykaila is saying, you need to be around somebody in multiple settings and have multiple conversations with them before you make that determining factor. Because what you're essentially requesting is to be in their energy and gain wisdom from their life experience. But you should have more observation into their life as a holistic entity, especially as we age outside of college. If you were in college at 30, that's fantastic. There's still that academic environment that's safe. But outside of that environment, you don't really know that person. So you want to get to know them as much as you can before you decide to make them your mentor. Because sometimes it's just nice to have a community colleague and that's just it. Like, oh, it's a high and by, like, you're cool, but I'm not ready to invest time in you and I don't receive you investing in me because the energy was off. I don't feel like you're a safe place and you don't want to overcommit to a space that's not safe. So don't be afraid to shoot your shot and trust your gut, right? It's a journey of self-esteem, but also trust yourself. If you're like, nah, upon first arrival, I said, absolutely not. Trust that because that's your gut protecting you from either receiving negative energy or entering somebody's world that's not safe for you. And our job is to trust our gut and move forward and receive good intention, good energy, good advice to help navigate life, not toxic.
Yeah, I'd like to add something. I hope I'm not being presumptive here or misinterpreting. I may or may not be, but the whole 30s part it feels like it might be like I'm a little older, like, or I'm like kind of maybe too old. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but I would try to lose that sort of perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. There are C-level executives who have mentors and they mentorship doesn't have an age. It's not an age group. You're never too old to have a mentor. Like someone said earlier, there's executive mentorship programs out there that specifically focus on pairing executives and business leaders with mentors, because there's always somebody we could be learning from. I still have a lot to learn. Like, we don't know it all. Okay. Mentor doesn't know it all either. So this is such a great note to end on. I know we could go on and on. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Like, I don't know about you, but I think just I think you mentioned, Mykaila, earlier, like self-advocacy. I know we didn't have time to touch on that, but that's such a huge part of this. Like, even as a mentee, I hope that you, and I love what you said, Reggie, we have to assert ourselves and self-advocate for ourselves and take our craft seriously. And just because that person is in a higher level doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice our integrity of who we are as a person or a mentee. So I hope this conversation inspired you, educated you, empowered you, that you learned something new today. I want to thank each and every panelist for carving time out of your busy day to speak to us today. And like I said before, we do these events on a monthly basis. So please follow Pipelines and CSUEA so you can stay up to date with our next event. And go be great, okay? Go be great. Thank you all for attending and investing in yourself today, and have a great weekend. Thank you so much.